Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey everyone, Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending. This is our weekly faculty call for local marketing students on April 18th, 2012, and a live Q&A is going to follow. And this is the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. Well, next week's faculty call is going to be Wednesday, April 25th at 4 p.m. Eastern. I got some other housekeeping items to address as we finish the weekly update, but before we start the weekly update, I just want to point out a webinar that my agency is going to be hosting. That is on Tuesday, April 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern. This is put on by One Marketing of onemarketing.com. You can go and search and register for the webinar there. For those attending today's call and those listening on to the recorded call, this webinar is geared towards small businesses in order to earn the right to provide local internet marketing services to them. The webinar is going to be about an hour long, and we're going to cover some major factors that local businesses should be looking at in order to get exposure on the internet and how to be found in Google. Now, inevitably, in a 60-minute time period, there's only so much that can be covered. But those that are aspiring to be internet marketers and those students of mine should also attend so you can hear our approach and maybe have the opportunity to learn a little bit here and there about how we earn the right to some businesses. All right, moving on, moving in. We got a lot of things to cover here this week, so let's get going. Foursquare. Well, they hit 2 billion check-ins. They now have 20 million users. What does that mean? Well, it's a pretty big network. There's a big indicator to that. Now, there's some aspects with Foursquare. It's a very regional product, or it seems to be that it's being used in major metropolitan areas. It's not a part of our One Marketing agency strategy for our customers. But it is definitely very prevalent on the East and the West Coast, not so much in the Midwest. And having a network of that size, predominantly the users are in the United States. Anybody that's outside of the United States probably doesn't need to make much reference to that. And it's just an enhanced Twitter. Having 2 billion check-ins and 2 million users, they haven't followed nearly the growth curve of some other social sites. So is that an indicator to their future? Quite possibly. With these numbers here and following history and looking at sites similar to theirs as to how they prevailed and sustained, is that Foursquare is going to be around for the long term, but service a specific niche of individuals. Likely not to go mainstream like a Facebook or Twitter. Now, why? Because all they are is Twitter with location attached to it. There's location attached to Facebook now. There's location attached to Google, Google+. The list just goes on. Location is a very important aspect of local and the internet marketing world. Mike Blumenthal made some good statistics available on some recent changes on local results from a local pack to blended results. These seem to be the terms that we see in the SERPs. And just let me take a look at some of the data. Okay, so we're going back to January of 2012 and looking at March of 2012. So that's a 60-day period. And back then, 3/4, it's just the numbers are a little weird here, but about 75% of all local searches yielded PAC results. Today, it is the exact opposite. Well, a little bit of variance. But it's the other way around, where 3/4 of the SERP results are blended results. Now, if we go back a year, sorry, not a year, we go back to April 6, 2009. That was the day that Google Places, back then it was called the local business results, was introduced into the mainstream results. And there were a few statements made. Some of the challenges faced by SEOers, especially in the local market space, was how do I handle this? Well, a lot of people started selling different services in different ways, and as we looked at this, the bottom line is no matter what you're doing in internet marketing, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of your customers or in the shoes of the business owner and look at internet marketing from the perspective of prospects. Well, when a prospect is searching for a local attorney or searching for a local dentist, do they really care if they're getting PAC results or blended results or organic results or what they're getting? If I'm selling them that service, do they really care if they're number one organically but they're pushed down by 10 PAC results? Are they really number one? Does it really matter the difference between blended results or PAC results or organic or local? No. Does it even matter if we rank them? Not really, because they want their phone to ring with qualified buyers. Well, we do that by ranking them high in the SERPs with qualified keywords. But if we start to put time and effort into worrying and focusing on where Google is today and not trying to understand what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, it doesn't matter the types of results that they show or what labels our industry puts on them. Google doesn't put the result of blended results or PAC results or old results. We did that as an industry. We made that up. Well, that's not exactly how it is. Google's objective is to give the best results to its user. That's it. If that means one way or another way or a third way or a fourth way, they're going to find that way. So don't focus on the way it is today. In other words, if you've been focusing on PAC results or organic results solely, you've missed the boat. The last 60 days should be a clear indicator of that and should terrify people that are putting themselves into that closed house. All right. Here's an interesting statement. Before I get into this, we've got a questions box, okay? Or is it the chat box that we use? We use the questions box. On your go-to software right now, in the questions box, I want you to type in an answer. I'm going to ask you a question. The answer I want to be a one or a two-word answer. The first thing that comes to your head. I'm doing a simple poll here online, recorded, live, unscripted. Let's see if my audience members are in alignment with this bold statement. So my question is, your answer is going to be in one or two words. You're going to type it into your question box. And I want to hear the general consensus of the people that are on the line right now. When I say this word, it's the name of a company. You tell me in one or two words what that means to you, what that company is, what defines that company, who are they, as short as possible. So that company is Yahoo. What is Yahoo? What are they? What do they mean to you? When I say the company Yahoo, what do you think of? Getting some good stuff here. Some variances, all right? Lou says search engine. Dan says dying company. Nick says old school. Gene says news. Joe says portal. Okay, so I got 5 responses back to back, live in an unscripted environment, just like that. We got a few more coming in right now. They're very different than this one statement because this statement's coming from the CEO. And that statement says, we don't need to reinvent who we are. I read that on CNN, okay? It was there yesterday, posted at 6:20 p.m. We don't need to reinvent who we are. Yahoo CEO. But here we've got clear evidence. I went, that's bullshit. Nobody knows who they are or what they do. I'm going to ask my students to see what this deal is. So the perception of Yahoo is search engine. Are they really a search engine? Are they a dying company? Well, if that's the perception that somebody has, of course, there's others that have that perception. I have that feeling. So if their perception in the world is we're a dying company and the CEO says we don't need to reinvent who we are, or they're old school, or they're a news portal, or a news source, or a portal, who is Yahoo? So they've got this guy running this company that says we are happy with where we are and we don't need to change who we are. Well, I think I've said enough. Where's that company going to go? You're walking around with a chip on your shoulder inside your own company that you're the leader for, and you're telling the world that you don't need to change, but the world is telling you otherwise. We've got so many more posts here. Forums, search, Scott says, old school, Nick says, dying. Lou comes out and says, sounds like IBM. Guys, like, you guys are smart people. You guys are entrepreneurs and businesses in the same market that this company runs. All right, well, that was fun. Yeah, it was fun because they just cut 2,000 jobs too. Google, Oracle, Sun Microsystems. What's the battle there? Well, we've heard of Android. We've heard of Java. This is a big deal because a lot of our customers are going to be utilizing mobile devices to find our customers. Or in the case of local business owners, a lot of your customers are going to be using mobile devices. Attorneys, think about that. Somebody gets into a car accident. They come home. They're sitting in their living room. Since having a tablet, I know darn well that all the people that use my tablet and all the people that are using tablets that I have seen aren't pulling out their laptops on their laps in their living rooms. Mobile devices, bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens, in our home. So mobile's big. It's not an entity on its own. We know that. It's not this new big thing. It's just a part of local search. It's just a part of the umbrella. What does this have to do with Sun Microsystems? Well, Oracle bought Sun Microsystems, if you're not aware of that. Sun Microsystems is the founder of Java. Java is a piece of software, web-based software to allow applications to run on it. It operates like an OS operating system. Java is open source. Java is used for quite some time. Apple had a little debacle with them, as well as Flash. But this open source basically powers most smartphones. And then Android came into the market space. When was that? 2 years ago? And now Android as an OS is the most widely used operating system on all mobile devices across the country or the planet. Big deal. So why did Oracle sue Google and start their major court battle yesterday? Well, it all comes down to patent infringements. There's 2 patents that Oracle believes. Now what's interesting is Sun knew about all this information, but before Sun was bought by Oracle, they didn't pursue any legal battles. The moment that, well, within a couple of weeks of Oracle buying Sun, inside information indicated that they were starting to work on this battle. About a year and a half later, they're now starting their battle. Well, from what I understand about this, is that it really has nothing to do with the money. You see, you say, how can it not have to do with the money? It's always about the money. It's not about the money that we know about. It's about the money behind the scenes that we don't hear about. Now let's see if I can decipher some of my thoughts. You see, if Oracle wins, that means that Google is going to have to back pay restitution on all the licenses for all the Android devices that went out and pay forward to utilize this little aspect of their operating system. Some revenue. It could turn into maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. But it's not even close to the tune of, what, $7 or $8 billion that Oracle paid for Sun Microsystems in the first place. If Oracle wins, what this means is that Google is going to have to change their product for cross-compatibility to work with native Sun apps. That means there's over 500,000 Android apps out there that have got to be tweaked or able to run. And the cross-compatibility means that app developers, program developers, native programs, all of that is going to have cross-compatibility for Oracle. But does not mean that all Android apps are going to be cross-compatible back to Sun. Devices and products that ultimately have a Sun operating system on it will be in a much better position. And therefore, the desirability to have Oracle-based or a Sun-based or a Java-based product over an Android product is going to increase. Who knows? It's just nice to know what's going on with these companies, how these companies operate, how they play ball with one another, and that helps us understand further what we have to do. Thanks, guys, for all the responses. We got quite a few. Google was recently fined a whopping $25,000. What does 25 grand mean to them? Do a little bit of calculation. You know, the CEO of Google makes $25,000 in 10 hours. Imagine that, going to work making 20 grand a day. Holy cow. But they were fined because they were accused of, quote unquote, stonewalling the FCC. Stonewalling basically means stopping them from getting information. You guys all remember the Google Maps streetcar? Have you seen one yet? I've gotten a couple of pictures. Seen them in Buffalo and Chicago. But these are little cars that they're driving around the country and Canada, and they're basically taking pictures of everything. My hometown that I grew up in, a little small town called Sudbury, Ontario, maybe 100,000 people, a mining town in the north part of Ontario, is completely mapped because that city paid for it. They paid Google a bunch of cash. Cities around the world have done that. So they take these little pictures and they collect information. Well, there's a lot of privacy aspects. What about if you take a picture of a license plate, or you take a picture of a face of a person, or you take a picture of a couple of kids playing in their pool out front? I mean, you can't show that stuff. Well, the biggest one was when they picked up information from surrounding Wi-Fi. They picked up some very sensitive information from surrounding Wi-Fi. Why this was a big deal in the news, I don't really know. Clearly, at the end of the day, there was an engineer that made some programming, and they just wanted to collect all the data they wanted. They realized that they were collecting too much, and they crossed the line. If they really did delete all of that data and fix their patch, good for them. But really, why are people up in their panties about the fact that somebody has collected information about websites that were visited through a Wi-Fi connection? And that company happens to be Google. Don't you think they already know? They were the ones that went to the media and said, guys, we screwed up here, knowing darn well that they were going to be blasted all over the place for that screw up. So the FCC wanted information. They wanted to interview the programmer that created that code, and Google said no. He pled his Fifth Amendment right. So if I've got an employee that's doing their job and I don't feel that they've done their job wrong, but they might have made a mistake, I'm accountable to that mistake. That mistake has not affected anybody in any way negatively, financially, or emotionally at all. Accountability was present. Why would I want a government agency wanting to come and interview my employees because of their mistake of our business practices? Aren't I entitled as a business to make mistakes provided I fix it, accountable to it? I don't blame them for saying no. So the FCC fines them 25 grand. Larry made a bold statement on CNN this week. I just wanted to share with you. He said Apple, China, Facebook. You got a country, the biggest tech company in the planet, the biggest social network in the planet, threaten the open web. Kind of put me, when I read it, it kind of concerned me because he made a statement, I don't think the Google algorithm would ever have been created in today's day and age. Why? Because Google can't crawl anything on Apple. They can't crawl any content on Facebook. China, well, enough said there. Communist state. Do you guys believe that the internet, when my kids are my age, that the internet's going to be an open environment? I don't, fortunately. There was a good post on one of Google's blogs that I wanted to share. You should definitely check it out. Do a Google search for Help Desk Hangouts. Get found on Google. The reason why I thought that this was a really good post for you to read is I'm going to go over some of it. They put together some questions that are there to help business owners about Google Places. And the reason why I want to share these with you, they are basic, but it gives me insight into Google's understanding of what challenges they're facing from small businesses. They must get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different types of questions. And for them to take the time and energy and post, what I got here, 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe. To me, these are the top 8 questions. I better know answers to this stuff. So I'm going to share some of this with you. These are a lot of these issues are stuff that we come up with, and we have different answers because Google's very, very generic. So we're going to decipher the difference between what Google has to say and what we've learned as a community. First one is when a business simply relocates, what's the best way to set up a new address in Places? Well, you should report the listing with the old address as closed via a report a problem link on the listing itself. Google receives that report and then puts the status as permanently closed. And then go ahead and create a brand new listing for the business's new location. Wow! This has been an issue that, what was it, maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago. We actually learned this strategy. It was through a friend of mine, a colleague, that represented a client of his, speaking with Google, and it was through AdWords, and they had to use the ploy, we need to get our listings fixed because we want to start spending money in your AdWords. And nowhere, anywhere on Google's site did it ever say to do what they just said right here. But the guy on the phone did say that. And so we reported it to all of our students and said, if you're going to make updates, you guys should remember all that. Well, here's the proof. Close the old one, start a new one. Let's take a look at a couple more questions that are highly relevant. How do I get my places listing to appear for certain keywords and searches? We don't offer advice on how to do this, but here's a great video about how we approach our local search ranking. Well, we're not going to tell you how to get specific keywords. In other words, that says, oh, it's completely possible. Well, we know that, of course, right? What should I put in the description field of my page? Think of the description as your elevator pitch. Keep it short and sweet. And valuable. Add value to your customers looking to earn more about your business. Don't stuff it with a bunch of keywords. It won't help you, and it definitely won't help your potential customers. Well, yes, we know that. A lot of SEO people are going to tell you to keyword stuff it. Some of them are going to tell you to have a keyword density ratio of 5.6%. What is keyword research, folks? It's understanding the theme of potential buyers. When you write a description about a business that services a certain tribe of customers, it's definitely going to have an evoked theme in that description. So your keywords are naturally going to get into that description. There's no need to stuff it. That's what Google is saying. When are Google Places accounts going to be connected to Google Plus pages? A popular question, they say. We heard your feedback, and we're continuing to evaluate how these tools might work together in the future. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Here's a good one. I went through the owner verification process, but for some reason, user-generated content still appears on my page. Why? Think of a business listing as a search result, like featured information pulled together from third-party sources from all over the internet. Like Yelp, Yellow Pages, Info USA, and whatnot. So when you verify your listing, this just means that you have access to all the other features that are involved in Google Places, like, say, Google Analytics. Now, what Google says, we allow the most recently verified edit to display on a listing, whether it's from a user via the Report a Problem feature or a third-party provider, in an effort to maintain an accurate and up-to-date map. Doesn't necessarily answer the question, but thanks, Google, for that response. This is, I don't have a storefront and serve customers at their location. Can I list my businesses on Google Maps? Well, of course you can. We've covered this in many different ways. These types of businesses are what we call service area businesses. That's good jargon to understand. That's what we call it local marketing sources as well. They have a whole guide on creating service area listings. We've analyzed that listing, created and added our own insight into that. You can find that material inside the portal. But they do say you must hide your location. You must hide your address. Well, we've been through this before. We understand exactly how that is. Google is actually calling businesses that are service area businesses and saying, do you service people at your location? And if you answer no and you say you do, your listing is gone. So be careful with that stuff. New metric added to Microsoft's Ad Center. This metric they call share of voice, SOV. I mean, that's all we needed is another metric in the internet marketing world. Microsoft, man, I mean, these engineers just don't know how to simplify stuff. I mean, they came out with a metric that we use in keyword research very frequently in a tool called commercial probability. It's awesome. I understand it, and I use it. But Microsoft is not building tools for the internet marketer. They're building tools for the end user. The end user does not understand commercial probability in keyword research. Same as share of voice.
Share of voice is how many times your ad is shown versus the total number of potential times it could be shown. It is not the amount of times your ad is shown divided by the number of searches, because you could do a search for, say, dentist in Chicago, but you could have 10 competitors above you that are all bidding $5 or more. They're going to show. Your ad may be bidding $2 for that keyword. Well, your ad did not have a propensity to show. Therefore, it's not going to be included into the SOV calculation. That's a big deal, because your SOV calculation, your percentage, is going to change as you change your budget. How can that be a relevant metric to measure effectiveness of market share if we have a variable such as budget changes? Why didn't they think that through? How valuable of a metric is that going to be for me if I don't have control over that variable? Sorry, I don't have control over the metrics that drive the variable. Huh. Microsoft, just let's add more features. Getting through here, guys, getting through. I'm flying through. We're almost done. Get into some questions and answers. My favorite part. Google's got a new tool to test all your rich snippets. If you don't know what rich snippets are, it's just basically embedding code on an HTML that allows a search engine to read that code and recognize that it's relevant for a certain area. So you may embed an address. Well, you use a rich snippet to do that. You may embed a review. We'll use the hreview snippet markup language to embed that. You may have, I think movie times have rich snippets, and restaurants from their menus can utilize rich snippets. Google's been spending the last 18 months coming up with a whole variety of different rich snippets. So that now they have a tool that you can put your HTML code into and see what rich snippets are coming out. Find that in your Webmaster tool. Thank you for sharing that. But on that note, we're going to get into some Q&A for now. So this is going to be the conclusion of Local Marketing Sources Weekly Update.
That concludes this Local Marketing Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is provided from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers. Visit localmarketingsource.com for additional resources focused on online marketing for local businesses.